A Vort of the Rebbe on this week's Parshas Bereishis. The word Bereishis is the first word of the Torah. And the first letter of the first word is a base. And the question that's asked in many places is, why does the Torah start with a base, which is the second letter of the Aleph base? Why shouldn't it start with an Aleph, which is the first letter of Aleph base, since this is the beginning of the Torah? Now in Yerushalmi it says that the letter Aleph is an abbreviation of the word Oror, which means cursed. The letter Beis is an abbreviation to the word Baruch or Bracha, which is a blessing. That's why it starts with a Beis, to start with a letter that represents Bracha. But the Rebbe asks, we could surely find good words that start with an Aleph, and Chas v'Sholem, not such good words that start with a Beis. So because there is this word Bracha, and here is the word Oror, that's why it starts with a base. Another question. We find in the Gemara the story that Talmei HaMelech forced the Sanhedrin, the Chachamim, to translate the Torah in Greek. They didn't want to. And he was afraid that they would make changes. So he put each one in a separate room, and they didn't know why they were put there. And he told each one to translate. And here they can't make up before to make certain changes. Nevertheless, there are certain changes that Hashem put into the mind of each one of them that they had to change, because if they wouldn't change it, he would have explained Pshat in the Psukim, not the true way. One of the changes they made is that they didn't write it as if it says Bereishis bara Elokim, but the Elokim bara Bereishis. Bereishis bara Elokim means in the beginning Hashem created, but they could have touched Bereishis is the name of a creature. So Bereishis bara Elokim, this creature Bereishis created Elokim, created Hashem. So that's why they changed it. It should read Elokim bara Bereishis Hashemayim v'Soretz. That the Eibishter created in the beginning Shemayim v'Oretz. But it comes out of, according to the translation they made for him, it did start with an Aleph. It started with the word Elokim. And it's interesting. Why is it that one did start with an Aleph? And the Nekuda that the Rebbe says is that the reason the Torah starts with a base is because the learning of the Torah has to be the base, the second step. Before you start learning the Torah, the approach to Torah, the Aleph of Torah has to be the realization that Torah is holy and Torah is the wisdom of Hashem. And in order to connect to the Torah, not to the wisdom of the Torah, in order to connect to the kedusha, the holiness of the Torah, to the godliness of the Torah, you have to have that approach that this is Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then you start learning. So when you learn, which is the second step already, you will be permeated with the kedusha and the feeling of the holiness of the Torah. And that is the deeper pshat in what it says in Yerushalmi, that Beis is Bracha and Aleph is Oror. Doesn't mean Kipshute, because the letter Beis is an abbreviation of the word Bracha. If you learn the Torah in the form of Beis, that means that the learning is the second step, then you will get a Bracha, which means you will really have what the Torah is. But if you learn, the learning is the first step, there's nothing before that, there's no feeling of Kedusha before it. But there's just the logic of it, then that brings a klola. And it's interesting that Hashgacha Pratis is that the Gemara also starts with a Dav Beis. The first Dav, the first page of the Gemara is already Beis. There's technical reasons for it, but Hashgacha Pratis, it is that way, because the teaches that when you start learning even Gemara, the approach has to be that the learning already is the second step. And this is why when they translated for Talmei HaMelech, for a Goy, it did start with an Aleph. Because this whole idea of feeling the Kedusha and the Lakus in Torah, and having that approach to Torah, the Mele, when you learn Torah, you connect to the essence of the Torah, which is Hashem, that Goyim don't have. By them, they learn Torah, and some of them could learn Torah. And it's a great subject. The Pasuk says, this is the greatest knowledge in the eyes of the Goyim. They could learn. So our Goyim will even learn Gemara. But to them, it was a subject. So to them, the learning starts with an Aleph. But by Yidden, it starts with a base because there's the aleph before it. And this is the beginning of the Torah. Before we even start learning, we have to have that feeling. And that is the beginning of the whole Torah. That throughout the whole year when we learn Torah, we have to learn with the feeling of knowing that this is Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we learn Torah, we unite with the Eibishter himself.